Oh, it is now, 24 years ago. And you know, I believe a church means different things to a person during the various stages of one's life. I joined the Advent seeking spiritual direction, which Clay Turner provided. We wanted an active church home for our children, and I particularly found the Advent's commitment to outreach in the Spartanburg community and beyond to be remarkable. I've loved serving this church in different capacities, no matter how large or how small, because, one, I knew my help was needed and appreciated. Two, I developed a connection to the church along with a connection with members and beyond that I otherwise would not have had. So this past year has been quite different because my family and I were recipients of Advent's extraordinary pastoral care. During a 2-month period, and in the midst of the holidays, 2 of our parents died and our daughter got married. When we realized the dire situation of Billy's mother, we called her church, where she had been a longtime member, only to have no one answer the phone. Its minister had left, they had no interim, and I guess everyone else was on vacation. We called Steve McGee, and he was with us every day until she died. Then he officiated at her funeral. She was not a member of this church. She was not an Episcopalian. It did not matter. My father was a retired Methodist minister who returned to Spartanburg in 2014 with my mother after living elsewhere for 40 years. He loved, quote, all of the young priests at the Advent. And he really came to identify with their ministry more so than his official denomination. As the wedding plans intensified, my father's health deteriorated, and during the week of the wedding, which was no less the week after Christmas, I didn't know if he was going to live. I didn't expect him to be at the wedding, but he willed himself to live in order to participate in his granddaughter's wedding. Now, I can't tell you what it meant to my family to watch Steve and Ned so beautifully accommodate my fragile father through that service, which indeed turned the wedding into the joyous occasion it should have been all along. He died 12 days later. Steve, Ned, and Debbie were there throughout the final days, and Ned was an officiant at his funeral at a Methodist church. My father was not a member of this church. He was not an Episcopalian, but it did not matter. But that's not all. During this time, dozens upon dozens of parishioners reached out to support us, all due to this wonderful pastoral care ministry our church offers. I'm sharing this with you because once Billy and I emerged from these emotionally draining experiences, all either of us could say was, what would I have done without my church? Instead of being angry that there was no minister for his mother, stressed during the wedding, disheartened about my father's final days, we were overcome with profound gratitude. It is a gratitude that I can barely describe. What would we have done without this church? I mean, what do people do who don't have a church home? How do they raise their children, and how do they cope with situations like we had just experienced? I don't know, but I do know that the Episcopal Church of the Advent is a church that takes care of its members, and we must be good stewards to keep it strong. I've often heard pledging and tithing described as giving to the kingdom of God, which it is, of course, but it is also investing in yourself. And if you value your spiritual life, if your spiritual life is important, I hope that you will find the courage to pledge generously to this wonderful church this year. A church that shares in our joy, that prays for our well-being, that hugs us when we are down, that grounds our children, and teaches us how to go out and make a difference in the world. Thank you.